Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where the orchard of wisdom shows are at your fingertips. It ignites your soul, your heart, your spirit, your mind, and your body with illumination from people who have made the journey before you. They're here now to help you on your journey, on your path of self-discovery. We are funded by you, the audience, and the people we interview. If you wish to support us, please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com and press on our Fund Action button. Anything is appreciated. We'd like you to sit back and enjoy the shows. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I am your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest today is Deborah Driggs, a former Playboy, actually, but I don't think call that Playgirl. You were a Playgirl in Playboy Centerfold, and she's a cover girl. She's been the Screen Actors Guild member, top-rated insurance professional. In other words, she's done it all. She's had to clear many hurdles in her life to make things happen. And while it seems that Deborah's success may have come easy to her, nothing could be further from the truth. Rather, she has overcome a number of challenges in her life to get where she is today. But it is true that part of her character is willing to take risks, maintain a positive attitude, and never take no for an answer. So we're going to be talking about her beautiful book today, Deborah's tell-all memoir. Her first love, landing on the cover of Playboy magazine, the acting career, the reinventing herself after divorce, and discovering new mentors and coaches. Let's dive right in. Welcome to the show, Deborah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me this time.
My
Beautiful,
pleasure.
beautiful.
Thank you for coming and sharing. You know, a lot of people, when they see things, they think people have got it all. They've made it. And, you know, I love this overnight success. Yeah, but it only took 10 years to get there, right? So there's always the illusion that things were so much easier, but they weren't. And of course, what we're seeing, you know, the whole thing about Hugh right now in the Playboy, you know, the way he treated women, you know, that is even a topic in itself. But how did you become a Playboy centerfold?
A centerfold. Yeah. So, yeah, it's funny. I was just going to go back and comment when you said, it always looks like, this success just happens so easily. And I've had people say to me, you always look like you have it so together. And people don't really see the climb. They only see, oh, she was on the cover of the magazine, or she was the centerfold, or she was in that movie. But they don't know the struggle and the climb and the things that really go into it and the hard work. And so how did Playboy happen? Well, it really was very it was kind of by accident. Honestly, it was nothing that I aspired to do. I never thought to myself, I hope someday I'll be in Playboy magazine. I wasn't thinking that way. And I'm born and raised in Southern California. I've always been a performer. I was in school plays. I was a cheerleader. I was a professional cheerleader. I was a dancer. I grew up figure skating. So I've always been a performer. So it was the natural progression to move to Hollywood and pursue acting and modeling. And I had been acting and modeling from about 1983 to about 1989. And I had two agents. And in 1989, I got a call from my agent, and she said, look, Playboy's coming out with a new book. It's called the Lingerie Book, and they want to see you for the cover. And so my first question was, is there nudity involved?
Yes.
And because that's what I related, Playboy with. And she said, no, I don't think so. This is for the cover. And so, I had passed the famous Playboy building on Sunset Boulevard. It's no longer there, but I had passed it thousands of times, and never once had I ever thought that I'd go inside. You know what I mean? And so now I'm going there. I'm going on an audition, and I got there, and it was odd. I signed in, and they gave me a robe, and they took me back, and they said, take everything off, put the robe on. We'll take you in the studio, and you'll do some Polaroids. And I said, oh, no, I'm not here for that. I'm here for the cover for the lingerie book. And they said, well, everything we do, we need to see your body. I said, yeah, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm going to leave my undergarments on. And, I was already modeling for a lot of swimsuit companies and stuff. So I was okay with leaving my undergarments on and doing the Polaroid. And, they were kind of like this to me. Whoops.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah. They've seen it all
she's-
anyway. Who cares?
yeah.
Right.
And by the way, and I just, I left this audition and I didn't think it went well. And so, I kind of laughed. Well, that was a first. I got to see the Playboy building. I got to see the studio. And so I never in a million years imagined that they would call me back. And so I got a call that afternoon from the chief editor, Marilyn Krabowski. And she said, we want to shoot you to be a centerfold. And I honestly, I think what I said to her was, I think you're confusing me with somebody else. I didn't come in for that. I came in for the lunch. She goes, no, I know who you are. And no, I'm not confusing you. And, and she talked like this. And so she had a very distinct voice. And I thought, I can't believe this is happening. So I called my agent and she's like, yeah, they called me immediately and they want you to shoot a centerfold. And, this was 1989. And it was a different time in the world. There was no internet. You couldn't Google anybody. And it was a lot more private, back then. And also in 1989, Playboy was the #1 magazine in the world. And
hard
it was
to turn down.
hard to turn down. And
Yeah.
so I was left with, I was really doing a lot of commercials and I was going out, I was in the Sunday paper, for Buffums or Macy's or, the department store where you're like, hey, and that was me, I was that girl. And so I was the funny girl and I wasn't a high fashion model because I'm only 5'6". So I did a lot of commercial print work and I knew that if I did Playboy, it was going to change everything. And it did. And so, that was the decision, are you going to go down this road or are you going to go down this road? And the consensus was with everybody in my life back then was, you got to do it. It's so hot. It's so sexy and it'll open doors. And I trusted that. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Because I had already been modeling and doing acting and going on commercials and I had bit parts and, TV shows and I was getting to know casting directors. I had already built, a foundation in Hollywood.
Of credibility.
And so I wasn't the girl getting off the bus coming to LA to do Playboy.
Right.
Where a lot of the girls, that's what they aspire to do. They aspire to come in, be a centerfold, and that's like the whole thing. That's the gamut for them, right? That's like, I'm going to do Playboy and that's it. Where I really wanted to be taken seriously as an actress. So I was in a 2-year acting program. And so the good news for me was that because I had this foundation, I got the doors opened up. Like everybody wanted to meet me because I could work on a set and I knew how to audition. And so I ended up booking quite a few things right away. I did the Bob Hope special in Acapulco, and I was a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Right when my centerfold came out, I did the Valentine's Day special in 1990. I think it was February 90. And my issue came out March 1990. And back then, the magazine was always a month ahead.
Right.
So the March issue would come out in February. So, and on the cover of my issue is Donald Trump. And that's also very unusual. Playboy didn't have a lot of men on the covers. So it was already a collector's item. So you can imagine today, it's now a huge collector's item.
Yes.
Because he's the, past president. And so I get more fan mail today for this centerfold than I did back then, because now it's really, everybody wants my signature. And then I was on the cover of the following month, which was April 90. And then I got asked to do Playboy, back then, cable was getting huge with, back then it was just HBO, Showtime and Cinemax. And so Playboy had a cable channel and they came out with a show called Playboy's Hot Rocks. And I was the first choice for the VJ for that show. So, it was like, I had meetings every day immediately after my issue came out. It was like Playboy would call me and say, these people want to meet you. They don't have anything for you right now, but they want to meet you.
Yeah.
And so it was like, everybody wanted to meet me during that time that I was on the cover. And then I flew to Chicago a bunch of times and shot some other covers. And so it was a very interesting time in my life. It definitely opened the doors. And I met people that I probably would have never met
Right.
if I hadn't done it. But the good news for me is that I did take the acting seriously. I stayed in my 2-year acting program and kind of worked jobs around my acting schedule because I wanted to be taken seriously. And I was being brought in for a lot of really good stuff. Pilot season, I'd get brought in, and a lot of stuff I wouldn't get brought in for because
Right.
I did Playboy, because it was a different time
Mm.
back then. So yeah, it was it's interesting to look back, and I talk about this a lot because when I say there was no internet, you couldn't Google me
Right.
and find me. It was more very private. You had to buy the magazine to see me,
Yes, exactly.
and now you can Google me and it's like, it's everywhere, and who knew that was going to happen? And so I didn't, that wasn't, nobody could foresee that back in 1989.
No,
But I
no.
don't think, I think about life differently now at my age and all the different ups and downs and things that I've gone through. And there's not a time where I think to myself, oh, I would change that, or I wouldn't have done that, because I don't like to waste time doing that,
Right.
because it doesn't serve anything. And really all the things that I have done have gotten me where
Yeah.
I am today. And they all kind of served a purpose. And it's really kind of fascinating. It's like doing a puzzle, really, when you start to look at certain things that you've done in your life and you kind of put the pieces together and you see how, oh, that maybe happened because of that, or,
Exactly.
and you can't
It
have
all has a
regrets.
reason. It all has a
Yeah,
reason. Yeah.
exactly. And
Mm.
I really believe in that energy. And
Mm.
I'm fascinated with it now, where I'm one of those people that, most people don't know this, I said this earlier, is that I always look like I have it so together, but I suffered for many, many years with heavy anxiety and
Mm.
fear.
Mm.
And I would just really like kept pushing it down, and you kind of knuckle through things, or you like dig your heels in, and you just, you fake it till you make it. But that catches up with you after a
Yes.
certain amount of time. It kind of just weighs on you. And I would just quietly suffer. And back in those days, there wasn't a lot of help.
No.
People didn't talk about, God, I just feel like my whole world's going to fall apart. No, we didn't talk about
No.
it. We all
Too
had to
too
look.
afraid of it. Too afraid of a stigma, right? Too afraid of
Right.
the
And
judgment.
totally. And what comes to my mind when I think about this is when Brooke Shields
Mm.
actually came out and discussed her postpartum depression.
Hmm.
And then she got ridiculed by
I
Tom
know.
Cruise.
Exactly.
And, that sticks out to me, because I
Yeah.
remember thinking, I had postpartum depression. I was like
Mm.
completely down and low and like just in this dark place. And God forbid you talked about that, because people would just be like, suck it up. You're
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
and that's
oh,
the
snap
world.
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
focus on this, and
Yeah.
it's not about that. And so today, thank God, we live in this world where we have awareness now, and we understand that these things exist, but now there's help, and we don't have to quietly suffer alone. And I did that for years. I mean, and really it was my 40th birthday. And I remember thinking, I am having a midlife crisis. Like
Hmm.
and I didn't know it at the time, but I literally was on my knees. I was broke, getting divorced, confused, resentful, bitter, angry, like all low
Yes.
spiraling
Yes.
stuff, that just made me have a nervous breakdown. And I just couldn't, it was like, when it keeps pulling you down. And you're like, how did I get so far down? I used to be here and now
Hmm.
I'm here. And it was like, I couldn't get back to that place. And
You have to empty out in order to be light enough to rise again.
exactly.
Hmm.
And it took me, for me, I'm one of those people that like has to go, 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 go.
Hmm.
And so, I would do that. I would reinvent. I would keep going, going, going. But, at some point, it just pulls you down again. And so really for me, I think the pandemic was like this huge blessing in
Yes. Yes.
disguise, because it slowed me down and it made me finally stop and work on stuff that I was kind of in denial about, and
Hmm.
really wasn't looking at. and really looking at like all my past relationships and what I was bringing to the table. And really, I spent a year looking at my part in every situation
Mm-hmm.
and really writing about it. And then that inspired me to write a weekly blog, which I do now. I've written over 100 blogs.
Good to you.
This is what happens when you do the work.
Yes.
You really, you find out about your inner self, and you get really aware, and it's so beautiful. And I talk about this. I started out, I was going to do this for 90 days, and I ended up doing it for a year, where I removed all the distractions and all the things that I thought were serving me, but they were not.
Mm-hmm.
And then I added in the things that I was going to do. And I thought, I'll do this for 90 days. Then it turned into 6 months. And then for the most part, I ended up sticking with it for a year. And through it, I created this 90-day program, which I'm going to launch here in the next few months. So anybody who's listening, if you go to my website, which is deborahdriggs.com, and you sign up for my weekly newsletter, you'll get my weekly blog. And then you'll know when this 90-day program is going to launch. And basically, I'm going to take people through exactly what I did that really changed my life. And I have to say, I did so many other people's programs.
Mm-hmm.
I did everything from yoga retreats to Tony Robbins to oneness retreats to silent retreats to 75 hard. I was always doing other people's programs and traveling. Like I became a seminar junkie, a groupie. I was traveling the world trying to find the answer. And I woke up in January of 2021 and I said, no more doing other people's programs because there's something missing. You need to do your program.
Right. Where's your connection? The connection lies within you.
Yes. And so through that, I created this 90 days. And what you do in life is you take what serves you, like what the things that worked, all those seminars and things served a purpose.
Yes.
So I took what I liked from those things and kind of added it as a spicing, or whatever topping to my program. But my program was more about an emotional energy cleanse. Mm-hmm. It was more about living positively in the moment and learning how to live with my fear and anxiety, which I had never done. I had used things like shopping and drinking and going out with my girlfriends.
Or working.
Yes. or distracting myself with nonsense, or getting on a plane and going to Cabo, or, doing all these things that were not serving me and not serving the people around me. And so I thought the only way to do this is to do it.
You have to go through the process. There is no shortcut. There is no denying it. Avoidance is futile, because somewhere along the line, it's either going to give you a cosmic 2x4 or pull everything, from underneath you, and you're going to be forced to do it. And so,
Totally.
When you're down there, the phoenix rises out of the ashes. It's inviting you to be that phoenix, but only be the essence of who you're really meant to be, and leave all the other garbage behind.
Yeah. And, and I would never have found out, what I was really made of, because I was really in such a dark place again. I was like, okay, here we go again, like this happened, there's different phases in your life. I believe this to be true. Like for me, 14 was a tough year. And then in my 20s, there were a couple of years there that were a little bit rough, and like I got derailed. And then I got married and things looked good. But then after I had my kids, I kind of got derailed again. It's like you go through these dark depression, like, and I'm one of those people that would fantasize about suicide. And I don't want to kill myself, but it's like,
you just want to end the pain.
You wanted the pain to stop.
You just want to end the turmoil. You're just so tired of feeling like that. It's just like, is death the only answer?
Yeah.
Which, no, it isn't, folks. No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
The invitation
to
start doing the work.
Exactly. And then I thought, wow, I'm so completely like low. And my thoughts are so not like, what is going on? People, like I said, people were always surprised when things like this would happen with me, because they're like, you always look like you have it so together. You're so positive. You're so confident. You're so outgoing. You're on the cover of magazines. Like you have it all, but no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's all surface.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is I've had all these ups in my life. I married the great guy. I married the love of my life. I had the great job. I made the money. I was on the cover of this. None of that made me happy.
No, because it's
Something was,
external life.
yes. And because it's the stuff that's inside that's like a turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't get dealt with, it just gets worse.
But it contaminates anything good.
Totally.
Right?
I can
Because
tell you right now, and I believe this to be true, that if I had been doing this work that I do now, I would not have gotten divorced.
right.
These were the impulsive decisions that I was making, and I was only looking at the outer
Yes.
stuff, and I was never looking within or my part or what I was doing wrong, or the things that were not serving me or my husband or my kids during
Right.
that time. I was only looking at this was the problem. It was always
Well,
outside
it's
of
like the old
myself.
adage of the toilet seat up, right? It's not the
Yes,
toilet seat,
it's
right? There are
not.
other problems there, and we can run from it, we can
Exactly.
hide from it, we can go la 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 and avoid it, but at some point we have to deal with it.
100%.
And so if we're not willing to deal with it, then I'm sorry, you can run as fast as you can away from
Oh, I
yourself,
have
but you
running
will always catch
shoes.
up. You'll always catch up with you.
Exactly. And my running shoes were always close by. It was like
Yes.
something didn't feel right. I was like, we gotta go. We gotta move. And by the way, and I don't know this for sure, but I feel like I did marry somebody that with that similar thing of wanting to run.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I journaled about this last year, I counted how many times we moved in our relationship, and it was like 19 times that we moved. And that is a runner behavior there.
It's a scared to commit to settlement. It's a scared. It's a I don't want to deal with really what the root problem is. So, let's go and find something else pretty that will take care of it. It's avoidance, avoidance,
Right.
avoidance.
And then you read the book, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
you see the pattern because it's true. Wherever you go, there you are. You're not fixing this.
No.
You're fixing the outer world. And we moved. I'm serious. I mean, I was like, my kids and I talked about it because where I live now, this is the longest I have lived anywhere in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in this place since 2011, no, 2012. And usually I move every 2 to 3 years.
Yes,
I mean,
that was just
too. That was right. And it's like, that just seemed normal. But, when I looked at it and I journaled about it, I was like, this is not normal. This is a running behavior. This is running from something it's not feeling good inside. So we got to change the job. We got to change the house. We got to change the state we live in. We got to change the relationship.
The hair color, the friends, the what we dress up on, everything, because that may make us feel better. Yes. Right? And it doesn't. It does not.
No, because it's not getting looked at. And so, for me, the 90 days was I opened the hood, just like a tune-up. You go in and you have to clean everything out. And, until and by the way, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I can tell you this right now. I did this. I was 57 years old. Mm-hmm. I had never not been in a relationship of some sort. Mm-hmm. And, I just jumped around and too
scared to have a relationship with yourself.
Exactly.
Yes.
God, and you know what? And by the way, I realize now because, I'm a life coach as well now. I went through that whole program last year. And I realize now when I talk to people, it is so common.
Oh, gosh, yes.
The people that just do not want to be alone, that they'll go to any lengths to always have some sort of companionship. And that was me. And I can't judge it. You can't help anybody if you're judging them.
No.
And that's something that I really, really I'm in tune with today, because if I really want to make an impact, I can't judge anybody because I can see so clearly that's what I used to do. Yes. Just to jump around and I'll date him or I'll date him. Or, okay, I'm done with you. I'm going to date this person. I mean, I was engaged 3 times before I actually got married. Mm-hmm. That tells you a lot right there. I just was running around.
The thing about, always avoiding yourself, you get to that stage in life where I love my own company.
Yes.
I love spending time on my own. I am not lonely. I think the worst thing is feeling lonely amongst company.
Yes.
than it is feeling happily alone with yourself. And when you're around people where you feel you don't fit, they don't see you, they don't hear you, and
Exactly.
that's onus is on you. It's because you're not showing them who you really are. You're avoiding being who you really are. You're giving them what you think they want from you. I spent 50 years of my life trying to be what everybody wanted of me.
Yeah.
Right? What a
Yeah.
waste of time. I
Oh,
was good enough just the way I am. If I'm not your
yeah.
cup of tea, go and drink something else. Right? It's okay that you don't fit in every category, that you're not everybody's style. That's
Yeah.
all right. You've
Yeah.
got to be enough for yourself. And only when you're enough for yourself can you be at one with yourself, enjoy the peace of yourself. But you've got to love this person
Yes.
before you can share that love and shed light with anyone else.
It's 100% correct. And it's exactly what I did. I was not loving on myself.
No?
And I didn't, I was in denial too about it.
Yes.
I thought I had all this
Well, you were
self-love, but
doing
I
all the programs. So
I was
surely if I'm
doing,
doing the programs, it must be having an impact.
yes.
But it
And
wasn't connecting with you.
no. And what I realized too is that a lot of the programs that I was doing were, be more successful, be more motivated, like
Rah,
do,
rah. I call
rah,
them rah,
rah, rah,
rahs.
rah.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't hitting my emotional
No.
cord, like my EQ. It wasn't
Yeah.
like hitting my emotional cord. And I thought something is still traumatically, it's like turmoil
Yes.
still. And I'm looking around going, why is everybody so like they're getting it? I'm not getting it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I missing?
Yes.
And then I thought, well, this isn't for me. If I just work out, if I just do the 75 hard program, then I'll get it,
Yes.
And then I tried that. And then, no, then if I just go on a yoga retreat,
Yes.
if I do a yoga, I'll recenter.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was really when I got down and dirty and removed
Mm-hmm.
everything and was alone with just me and my thoughts and writing. And then I started writing a weekly blog, and it was like very authentic because I wrote about things that really happened to me. And I thought, I'm not, people see me a certain way, and I want them to know that the
No,
struggle, the
you want
struggle
them
is
to
real.
see
Me, and
you for who
also,
you really are, your real
yeah,
essence of who you are, not the
exactly.
title of you.
No, there is no title. We are all on this planet as, part of this
Exactly.
universe. And it's like, we're this, really, we're a little
Well,
speckle of
where
sand.
we
And
are, we're each
yeah,
one of us a grain of sand, on the
yeah,
beach. And the thing is, people get mixed up with your achievements as with the identity of who you are.
yeah,
This is what you have done. This is what you do. Who
exactly.
are you really? And one of the reasons people make it so well in acting or any form of performing is that ability to be multiple people, because consequently, you're actually looking for yourself all the time.
Right. It's called emotional preparation.
Exactly.
You're preparing to be you're going to take on somebody's emotional life. So you do all this emotional preparation for this character. And, that's probably why I liked acting and that
Mm-hmm.
creative outlet, because I was able to do that. I could express anger and things that I could not express in real life or didn't feel comfortable doing, but you have to do it in a character situation. And so that I can see the appeal there,
Yes. Yes.
and they say that comedians are the that have the deepest emotional
Mm-hmm.
turmoil, these comedians, because
They use humor as a
they use
way to
humor,
avoid it, or
and I could
um,
see that.
to pick themselves up. And,
Yeah.
one of the things also that COVID's done, I think that's absolutely great, is that, and just, in the last few years, as you said, so much around the mental stigma. I love the word flawsome, because I think we are all beautifully flawed. That's what makes us a special diamond. And
Yes.
it's owning our flaws, because that is what builds the essence of who we are, our understanding, our compassion, our own liberation of our own spirit, heart, and soul. And when we hear other people that we've put up on a pedestal, we've adored them, so therefore they can't have any flaw, and they come out
Yeah.
and say, I have bipolar, or I have this, or I
Yes.
suffer from depression, or this happened to me and this has had an effect on my life. Suddenly they become real. Suddenly
Yeah.
they become like us. And that, for a lot of people, they don't want that. They want to look up at someone because they know it's not achievable in their own lives, and it's their form of escape. But it's changed the whole dynamic, the way we're looking at people now and going, well, if they, who've got it all, rich and famous and so many
Yes.
followers, therefore they must be happy. What do you mean you're not happy? What do you mean you suffer from this? You're
Yeah.
real like me?
Well, I mean, I think in the last few years, we've seen a lot of this kind of addictive power hungry, just,
Mm.
I mean, I mentioned Harvey Weinstein because, this was
I don't speak.
he was the biggest producer in Hollywood. And then you see like just the turmoil he must
Yes.
have been going through, and the sex addiction and the addiction, this power hungry addiction that it ends you up in jail.
Yes.
So addiction is real.
Yes.
It's
Well,
he can
look at
end up
Hugh.
in.
Look at Hugh. I mean, he was, there's a whole platform on him right now. He was a sex addict.
Hef,
And
Hef,
yes, Hef, sorry, Hef. Yes,
yeah,
not
Hef.
Hugh. Yes, Hef.
I don't know. I have to tell you, I have to tell you, I don't actually, I don't, I saw the A&E special, and there's a lot of us that stuff never really happened. So, that was shocking to me because I spent a lot of time with Hef. I actually thought he was geniusly smart and wickedly funny, and never in my entire time, and I went out with Hef quite a bit, in the 90s, never saw that side of him ever. There was nothing that was ever forced on me. It was always an invitation. And, there's a whole group of us that have done a whole page in his honor because we couldn't believe the stuff that was coming out about him. If it were true, believe me, when he was alive, it would have affected him greatly.
Yeah.
And so it's odd that it's being talked about now.
Oh yeah, it's always, post-mortem,
Yeah.
the
So I
way the
have to
truth comes
say,
out.
from my experience
Yeah.
with him, nothing ever shady with him. And I can tell you, in my whole acting career and auditioning and all of that, a lot of creepy things happened.
Oh, yes.
And so, but none with him. I mean, he was like, he loved having the girls come up on Sunday night for movie night or Friday night for game night. Like, he loved it. It wasn't, we weren't forced. We willingly went, it was fun. It was like we were a family. There's a whole group of us we're doing it's called Gatefolds, and we're doing an NFT project together, and we're all in his camp. We all have fond memories of him. So all those girls wouldn't be famous today if it wasn't for the generosity of this man.
Yeah, and they know their story, we don't.
Yeah.
And
And by the way, if those things happened,
yes,
like I
they
said,
do have. And
they
we are
didn't.
talking about an era, really, I would say kind of more stepped into the opulence of it, of, the 60s, 70s, 80s, where
Yep.
These men did, like Weinstein, did have the power,
Oh, they had
that
huge.
they
I believe me,
manipulated.
I was in auditions with very powerful producers that told me that I could have a job if, I was
The old
willing
couch,
to
right?
to do certain things. And, it, for me, it were, thank God, because
no job was worth it for you.
Well, yeah. And, I think that if I was really struggling and really needed the money, I probably may have done it. I had that weakness a little
Yes.
bit. And so I could see how all these girls, it became kind of a thing. And, I'm just lucky that wasn't part of my story, because
Yes.
I was definitely invited into those situations, but I was also very young minded, like even in my 20s, I looked really young. And so I was also really, like, I was intimidated by my surroundings in Hollywood most of the time. If I was in a room with really powerful producers or directors, that was intimidating for me. I wouldn't look intimidated, but I was on the inside. So
it's such a volatile business, any form of performing. It is. I mean, you're only as good as your next gig. All right, you've got this one, but what's the next one? What's the next one? And I have a guilty pleasure in interviewing musicians, because there's some of the purists, because they're so connected to the heart, soul, and their music.
Yes.
They know there's the other side of it. I have to eat, so therefore I have to play, I have to perform, but it is about the music in them. But for a lot of performers, it may be a different reason why they're performing, but there is that art and that love of the performance, of acting, of being a part of the industry, of being able to be different roles and explore and, take on different characters. The great ones that we see are the ones that we always know, doesn't matter how many prosthetics are on them or what role they're playing, we always know it's them. Right,
Yes.
because there's always that essence of
Yeah.
them there, right? But they also came up in that time period where the old couch, was really relevant and prevalent, and what we're looking at now is that accountability. So you guys paved the way for the generation now to be able to stand up and say, no, give me the
Yeah.
role based on merit,
Yeah.
not based on anything else, because now
Yeah,
we
it's really
call them
hard
out on it.
nowadays. It's really hard nowadays to get away with certain things. I
Yes.
mean, I think especially with social media and
Yeah.
these platforms that we now have, it's really hard to get
Accountability
away
is
with.
there.
There's no behind the scenes anymore.
Yes.
Everything's kind of out in the open and
Cameras on everywhere.
everywhere. Everybody's filming,
Yes.
I mean, you can't misbehave because somebody's filming you at all
Yeah.
times. So I know too that that's another thing, it's like as much as social media is great on one hand, and
Yeah.
it can expand a lot of people have created some amazing businesses through social media, but and then on the other, the catch 22 is
Yes.
that there is no privacy anymore, and you have to
Right.
be really careful, like what you're
Well,
putting out, and
people have become the paparazzi.
Yes.
And they're hounding in a different way, right? And
Yes.
and they are so opinionated and they're so quick to judge. And this is the thing about, when somebody's had a success and they're up there, people adore them, but now they want to bring them down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is like, if you've got that tendency to want to slice and dice someone because they've achieved something, that isn't on the person you're slicing and dicing. This is coming from a lack within you.
Of course. Of course. That's why I said you can't help anybody if you're judging them or if you're,
right.
It's there's, for me, I mean, I just know that anytime something feedback comes back to me or somebody says something negatively about me or whatever, or I hear, certain things, I actually, my first response now, and this is a new thing, believe me, because in the past I'd be like, F them,
Yeah.
but now I'm like, wow, they must be in a lot of pain.
Yes.
It's like a whole different response. It's like when people feel the need to put other people down or talk about how much they hate somebody. My first response is, well, they must be in so much pain,
Yes.
because that's really where it's coming from. It's not about, how can we were not born to hate. We really weren't.
Well, the hate comes from the fear.
Yes.
And the fear is the unknown. The fear is feeling, a victim of some kind. And when you take the victimization out of your life, nobody gets through life without something happening to them. Nobody. And some people will go through, far more tumultuous than others, but we all go through something. But this is part of our lesson in life. We discover our courage, we discover our strength, we discover our abilities, we discover who we really are in the essence of who we are. We discover what's really important to us and what really we want to do. Where does the heart take us? And we can't see where the heart takes us and what's important to us if we're not willing to go through the journey. We'll go and take our car for a service, right? We'll change the oil. We'll delete things from our computer when it slows it down. We'll throw out the garbage. But when it comes to ourselves,
we don't reboot.
Yes. We are hoarders. We are hoarders. And we have to look at that and go, but I'm feeling sluggish in my life. I don't feel I can move forward. I don't feel like I feel positive. But what is causing the negativity? And if you're not willing to go in and start chiseling it away and go, you're not going to forget, but you don't want any feelings attached to it. You don't want any negative emotions attached to it. You want to clean your own house so that you now can be fortified and your cup can be full.
Yes. And what do? Like, that's the thing, like people go, okay, that's all good. That all sounds great. But what do I do to clean my house?
Yes.
And that's where the 90 days came in, because I said, if you really want to go deep and you really want to have a change.
Yes.
Because anytime you want to change a behavior or a habit, or you want to create a new one, it takes 90 days.
Well, it does on your cellular structure.
Well, yes.
It takes the cellular structure changes in 90 days. Everything is that 90 days.
Everything. And so, people say, well, I'll do 30. And I go, well, if you really want the result, you got to do 90.
Yeah.
And so when you take the distractions completely away and you're left with this presence and like there were many days during those 90 days that I just sat and cried. I just sat in my space and I cried. And that's why I call it Deb's Den, because this is my space. This is my what I created for myself was a place that had books, it had a vision board, it had whiteboards, it had journals, it had yellow pads, it had symbols of my spirituality, it had affirmation cards, whatever, essential oils. I would put a scarf on the door that let my kids know I'm in my den. I'm in Deb's Den. This is my special space. I'm either doing a podcast or I'm writing. And when I open my door, I'm available. And I think we really need to create that for ourselves now, more than ever, just a place where we can feel safe to have these emotions and let it out and not be distracted by external things that are not going to save. Nothing out there is going to save the situation. It's all right here. The answers are right here.
Always.
And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful when you get creative and you start to really dive into the awareness is so beautiful. And that's why I said, I thought I was going to do it for 90 days and I kept going at 6 months. And, it became so fascinating to me because the more you do this, the more aware you become. So I just recently started dating again. Back in October, I started dating again. And it was almost a year that I did not date. The awareness I have and the intuition I have is so
far
different.
More in tune.
Oh my gosh. I know when I'm with somebody and they're not present or they're distracted by something, whether it's another relationship or their work or their job or their family, but they're not present. They're not showing up and being present with me. I was on a date where somebody brought their work to the lunch, and I thought, wow, I'm living in the awareness is so, like, if you can't take these 2 hours to be present with me and then go back and do your work, like, why are you meeting me for lunch?
Exactly.
When you're bringing a stack of papers to look at during lunch. I mean, it was odd. And because I'm so in tune with this gut awareness, it's really hard to be fake or phony or like, da, 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 da. And no, it's like, I'm just like, okay, that was a great
I'll leave you to your papers. Bye.
Yes. And I realized that I'm no longer going to try to fit into somebody else's world, that my world exists and it's pretty holistic. And so now I've got to match up with somebody who is on that same page instead of me. I used to always just try to fit myself in with somebody, but this is what you do when you're codependent, anxiety, fearful, when you're in these low spirals. Like,
well, I mean, the reason why you're even meeting the people right now is kind of a test. It's the universe will always test you. Are you going to go back to your own ways? Are you going to go
Murphy's Law,
begging for attention here? Or are you going to go, clearly you're busy, bye? Place that value upon yourself. And the more you raise your own beautiful divine vibration, the more that resonates out and will attract the right people who are on the same wavelength, that are on the same vibe. And your vibes will be talking even long before you meet.
Yes, exactly. And that's the energy, right?
Yes.
It's not about anything else. It's like, I know
we are energy. Everything is energy.
Everything is energy. That's why I said you can't jump from thing to thing. This energy just goes with you. And the person that you're trying to be in a relationship with feels all this powerful energy, and it's interesting because I was in a relationship. We broke up in November of 2020. And I almost moved to Texas. I mean, this was like a whole thing. And so what I realized when we broke up, he literally 2 days later was in bed with somebody else. Right. And then that girl kind of disappeared. And then he was in bed with somebody else. And then that girl, and now he's in a whole relationship with somebody else. And
a serial relationship.
But here I am going, at first I was like, how could he do that? How could he just jump? Doesn't he like want to take that time? And then I thought, hey, guess what? You're judging this because that's what you used to do.
Right.
Has nothing to do with him.
Yes.
This is now where I get to look and watch something that I used to do. I'm watching it. It's like, Wow, that's so
Reflection,
now it's
reflection.
intriguing.
Yeah.
It's intriguing now because I'm watching the behavior of myself and what I
Mhm.
used to do. Oh, this didn't work out. This guy wants to take me to Cabo. I'm out,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that
And I
doesn't,
mean,
it doesn't, and by the way, all those things end up dead end
yes.
because
Oh,
there's
you're
nobody's,
going nowhere. You're going
or you
nowhere.
get
It's
married and
just
you get divorced again.
exactly,
It's that
exactly.
cycle. It's
Yeah,
that cycle.
exactly. And the thing is, we've got to be accountable for our own actions. I was in an abusive marriage, not physically, but mentally abusive.
Yes,
And
which
I
I think is
realized,
worse.
oh, yeah, it is because nobody sees it. Nobody believes it either
Right.
because they're generally always very charming. Um, and I realized the fault was that I didn't place enough value on myself. I allowed him to chip at me and chip at me and chip at me until I was a pulp on the ground
Yes.
with nothing left. And as I did my own recovery, he felt threatened. But I have to realize I gave him the boots in which to kick me with. He put the boots on and kicked. That onus is on him. But I gave it to him because I didn't have any self-worth. As I came out, I started putting that self-worth on into it, and he would start with an argument. I would say, take it up with your mirror. That's the only one that's interested. And he would realize, I don't have that control over you anymore. He actually even said it.
Yes.
I've lost my control over you because he can no longer keep me in my place. I didn't belong there. You couldn't keep me in that
No,
place because it wasn't my place. And
no,
was it hard to do that work? Yes. Am I thankful I did that work? Most certainly.
absolutely. Oh my
We can
God.
be in
It's,
the same room. We gave our daughter away together. We're going to be spending a weekend, next weekend, celebrating our grandson's first birthday together. And it's been 21 years, and there's like no animosity towards him. And what the scars are there. The scars will always be there.
yeah. And
But
but you're aware of them
but
now.
I'm aware of them. And the thing is we've both moved on. Thank you for the kids. I love my children. Thank you for that
Yeah.
gift. But you no longer have any impact in my life whatsoever. There's no hate or anything. I did not like what he did to me, but I had to own up that I allowed it to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know how that is to me the most beautiful thing when even when it looks as though we should be blaming something outside,
Yeah.
that we actually take the time to look at our
Yes.
part. Why am I allowing this?
Yes.
And that is the beautiful gift. And when I work with certain people, especially with relationships, I always say, well, what's your part? What's your part in
Mm.
it? Because
Hmm.
I love when somebody comes to me and says, they're such an asshole, or
Yes.
they did this, or they cheated, or, all these things that they. And I go, well,
Yeah.
what's your part? What's
Hmm.
your part? What do you think your part is in this? And they're like, what do you mean? He cheated. I'm like,
Yeah.
I understand, but men
Why?
don't just cheat.
Why
They're
did he cheat?
missing something.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What
And it's
is
not
your
about you
part?
putting out, it's about a
Exactly.
misconnection, a
Exactly.
disconnection,
Something's
right?
missing. What are
Yes.
you doing? What is your part? And that's the hardest thing to look at. And by the way, this was my year of all I did in all my relationships was look at, well, why did I allow that?
Yes.
Why would I put myself in that situation? Why
Hmm.
would I dumb myself down? Why would
Hmm.
I, you know what I mean? Like
Oh, yeah.
and that's where the healing really begins, when you can no longer put it on something else. For many years after my divorce, I had so much resentment toward my ex-husband, so much anger, so much resentment. It took years to finally say, you know what? It's not all about him.
Yeah.
You know what? I caused so much turmoil in our relationship that it's everybody has a part in the situation. And all I need to focus on is my part, not his,
Exactly. Without
not
judgment or
his.
persecution of self,
Exactly. Exactly.
right?
I don't need to look at
No.
his part or anything that he did. I only need to focus on stay in my lane,
Yeah.
stay on my side of the
Yeah.
street. Because if you start putting yourself in other people's lanes and other people and
There's
start,
going to be a crash. Yeah.
it's set up for
Yes,
disaster,
it is.
you know?
Yes. And when you are looking back at things that you did and go, oh gosh, if I did that differently, if I'd done that differently, yeah, look at it as knowledge. Look at it
Yes,
as knowledge and put it in your knowledge time because
exactly.
next time that's not the way to do it. Don't go down the self-persecution, the self-judgment, the self-damning. All right, that's a waste of time.
Yep.
You did what you did based on where you were at with the information you had at that time. Was it a good decision? Was it a good reaction? No, you know better now. next time to react differently or not to react at all. Right.
Yeah.
And it strengthens you and it allows you to grow. But the last thing we want you to do is take a whip and whip yourself. You've already been whipped with, it's not, oh, I'm going to
Put
take the
that,
whip and whip
put
myself so
the
they don't
bat,
have to anymore.
yeah, put the bat away.
Yeah.
There's no more of that. I mean, I used to do that. Oh my gosh, it serves nothing when you
I
just
must deserve it. Whack, you silly
yeah,
person. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing I say too is, when we're in doubt, especially, relationships can be so confusing. And so I always say, when you're in doubt, do nothing.
Mm.
Don't do anything impulsive. Don't make a decision. Don't try to fix anything. Do nothing. Let energy kind of work itself out
Yeah.
now. And so it really makes for a much more calmer space when we can, like I was sideswiped on a Sunday night, this past Sunday night.
Mm.
I got a call out of the blue, and I say, it all looks good when you're like in these really good moments and,
Yeah.
you feel like you're aware and your energy's good, but life happens. You're going to
Oh,
get
yeah.
sideswiped. Murphy's Law, things are going to knock on
Yes.
the door. You're going to get the letter in the mail, whatever. And so I got that call Sunday night that kind of sideswiped me and took me kind of off
Kilter.
off kilter, where I was like, wait, what? And then I realized, Deb, this is a perfect example of what you talk about is happening right now. This is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because this is happening. You get to now step outside and look at the situation and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And just sit with it. And as uncomfortable as it was, because it was really, because, I, in the deepest part of me always wants to just fix something very quickly and just, get it worked out. And I don't need to do that anymore. And it literally, I do the opposite of what I normally would do. And I just thought, this is so fascinating. This is super cool. I'm so glad this happened. And I literally got up the next morning and wrote an entire blog about it, because that's real life. That's what happened. And I get to write about it. Now I don't use names and I don't,
Right.
and my blog's like, I'm 70 blogs out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this blog won't even come out for, the situation will be way past.
Yes.
So, but I got to write about it and riff about it. And because I know if it's happening to me, it's happening to somebody else. And that's what's so cool, is that now when somebody comes to me with a life situation, or my kids talk about something, I'm like, ooh, that's a good blog. I'm going to write about that, because that's when you get aware and you get in tune. And for me, my outlet is writing. So I write about it. And, I say, this just happened, blah, blah, blah. Or I write about how horrible I was during my divorce and, and what I learned from being so horrible and what I learned from, all that time wasted. I wasted a lot of time in really negative energy. So much time got wasted where I could have, reached out for these tools that are so readily available today. But, back then it's like, it's a different, like I said, people weren't, nobody
But there
was
was the
asking
old
for,
adage, what goes on behind closed doors needs to stay there. So, I mean, I literally would tell friends that I trusted what was going on, and they didn't believe me.
Yeah.
Right. But no, you two are such a happy couple. No. You're just having a little bad spell.
Exactly.
Right. And, and you felt like there was nowhere to go. But the thing is, there is somewhere to go. It's going into yourself. Yeah. It's going into yourself. And, one of the things that when people have an argument is you've got to walk away, lose the steam. And if it has to be addressed, I would say, right. And what I always found, I would write out and then only take out what needed to be said, delete the rest, right? Because you're writing out from the frustration. And then kind of look at the point. And then ask the person to read it and come back to you when they've digested it. You've diffused the anger. You've diffused the situation. Now you're just addressing the issue. And you can address it calmly. Let's just look at it at the root of what it is. It's up to them whether they do or not. But, writing it out for you, even for yourself, is important.
It's so, it for me, it's the most important. And that was, the advice that I gave to the person that called me with this information on Sunday. I said, what I would do if I could offer this to you, is I would write a letter to that person. You would never mail it. You just
Right.
write a letter. And it sounds, because there was a lot coming out. And I
Yeah.
said, you should write a letter to that person as if you're going to mail it, but you're not going to.
Mhm.
And then here's what I like to do. I like to write myself a letter from the person.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Kind of tricky,
Yes.
because let me tell you why. Our body, all the answers are within us,
Yes.
really. And so we really know what the answers are. So when you write the letter back to yourself in that person's point of view, that's when you get the cool stuff, because it's like, oh, I knew that,
Yeah.
but, and you don't even need that. That's why I said there's no such thing as closure. Closure is, we have to give ourselves closure.
Yes.
Nobody outside of ourselves is going to give us closure. And, women are always like, I just want closure. I want him to just give me the closure, or I want to know. And they get confused. And I always say to people, if you're confused and you're looking for this, you're not in a relationship.
Yes. Well, I mean, the closure, I had to wait 21 years. It was actually recently when a family event, my ex turned around to me and said, I'm sorry, I never should have married you. I was a lousy husband. Right. So you never know when it's going to come. I didn't need that validation. I knew. Right. But 21 years later, it came up that he finally owned it.
How beautiful,
yes.
Because that's not easy for people to do.
No.
And so that would be for me, like, I'd be taken back. I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like, wow. Like that's pretty huge. Somebody saying, something like that is huge,
Yes.
And so, you that's a beautiful moment.
You can't force ownership on people. All you can be accountable for is yourself.
That's it.
Right. If other people won't own their own actions, own their own force, own their own perspective, and they're always going to defend that negative, you can't do a thing. All you can be is the light unto self, and allow yourself to heal, to release, to move on, to grow energetically into those good vibrations. Because, inspiration begets invitation. And if they're inspired by what you've become, it's an invitation for them perhaps to take the journey on their own. But I need to fix him, or I need to fix her, or if I only do this, things will change. No. Take care of yourself. This person needs to take care of themselves. If you find a way back together,
and everybody's on their own journey. That's
and at their own time.
And I don't know when, I have a lot of people come to me for coaching and that type of stuff, but everybody's on their own journey.
Yes.
So, I just say, it'll happen when it happens. And for me, it didn't happen until 57. I mean, I went through lots of struggles. I was up and down and all around, and, and it didn't happen for me, really. And it was there because I believe that it's always there. I just didn't tap into it.
Yes.
And when you finally tap into it and you understand that, oh my God, I do have anxiety, I do have fear, I am codependent, I do have this sort of like addictive behavior to go to distractions to avoid feeling these horrible feelings. When you finally admit all that, then you can then heal. But, for many years, I didn't think I had any of that stuff. And then it was like very clear that I definitely did. Nobody wants to admit, oh, I suffer from anxiety, and I do have borderline depression, and I am codependent, and I do these crazy impulsive things, but when you do, it's like,
exactly.
It's like, now I can start practicing, and it's all.
But that's the point. Start. As you said, you talked about the first 90 days.
I had setbacks, believe me.
Oh,
it
God,
wasn't all roses. Like,
yes.
During those 90 days, there were setbacks where I was like, oh, I just kind of went back to that
afterwards,
old. I just went back to that old behavior. Whoops, and then I was like, why did I do that? Why did I pick up the phone?
Because it's an old pattern. It's an old pattern that keeps coming up and nagging at you, that wanting to be there. It's resistant to it.
It's like, this is what you know. This is what your body's used to.
And you need to do that first 90 days just to kind of break somewhat of the cycle. But it doesn't mean you're done now. That just means you're actually hopefully on the right path now.
Yeah, you're getting
and it's
started.
going to, and I've had so many stages, where I triumphed at this and I managed to do that. And then you find, oh, okay, I seem to be in a relationship where I'm doing the same thing again from a different angle. And it looked different, but really fundamentally, I'm still being that codependent, or I'm still being that person that wants to fix somebody. And you
Yeah.
have to look at yourself and go, okay, you know, why do you keep doing this? That doesn't
Yeah.
mean I'm broken, doesn't mean I've gone back to the beginning. It's just an awareness of of a pattern that is being harder to get rid of.
Yeah. And you know, and this is the other beautiful thing is to live with flaws and to live with
Flawsome.
things that are not work. You know, you learn to live with these struggles and these things because it's part of life. There is no such thing as, you know, this perfect life. And like you mentioned before, you know, we look at people, we put them on these pedestals. I
Yes.
use Brad and Angelina as an example whenever I talk about relationships, because here's the two most beautiful people in the world that you were like, oh my God, you know, what a gorgeous couple, right? And they had like 20 kids and
Yes.
and they looked like they had this perfect life. And then here, you know, you see the struggle, you see the divorce, you see a painful divorce, you see the lawsuits and the
Yes.
this, and then it comes out that he's addicted, and you know, you see all these things. Nothing is perfect, and that's, you know, for me that was like, you know, I used to say it jokingly, but I really mean this sincerely, is that if they can't make it, then we really do have to look at what is really going on in these relationships, because, you know, on paper they look like the perfect couple, you know, and they were photographed everywhere they went.
Exactly. Yes, they were the poster couple.
Yeah.
But we're seeing a lot now of couples that are openly and admittingly, hey, you know, we have our struggles.
Yeah.
Or, you know, so-and-so does something and, oh, the wife should leave him now. No, he had a setback, you know, and now it's how to address that setback, and because love should hold you together, right?
Yes.
Doesn't mean you condone a behavior. Doesn't mean that you know that whatever that setback is isn't hurtful, but you deal with it, because if that love is really there at the core, you deal with it. If it's totally abusive, that's a totally different situation.
Exactly.
But for most time, we all come to a relationship with baggage, and even if we've done the work, we think that baggage is being cleared out until it isn't.
Yeah, because listen, when your two people are coming to a relationship with stacks of pillows, you know, like from childhood, from divorce, from this. So we're walking into each other trying to, hey, you hold my pillows. No, I'll hold yours. No, hold mine. Here, hold mine. Can you hold this? No, you're not holding it right. More to the left. No, to the right. No, up a little. Okay, never mind. Let me find somebody else. Then you take the baggage to somebody else, right? And then you just keep repeating the cycle. And so, yes, we're going to come into these relationships holding a lot of stuff, and it's the give and take. You know, we don't go to relationships to get anything. No. We go to give, and
to complement each other.
And to be a giver of love, not a getter. Like if you're going to get something, it's already tragic, you know.
And also the careful thing about the giving. If somebody is on the receiving end is just receiving and not giving back, then the balance is out of sync, right?
Yeah.
So
it's about being of service, you know, for everything in life. It's about how can I be of service, and, you know, and it's a reciprocal, you know, there's reciprocity there, you know, you have to work together. Sorry, I keep banging into my microphone, but yeah, it's reciprocity. It's like it's a balance. And
it's also not losing yourself. You know, you are you, he is he, and who are you as an us? Yeah. It's not about losing your identity.
Yeah.
And he completes me.
We want complement each other, right? Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Because he fell in love with you for who you are, right? So who are you bringing into the us? It's not a question of leaving yourself behind. Yeah. It's being as abundant and beautiful and essentially as you are that you bring to the relationship. But you can't lose yourself.
No. And so, yes, so anyway, to wrap up or to finalize, you know, I would say that if anybody wants to go on this journey of self-healing, of really doing some energy cleaning and kind of doing the opposite of what you normally do, I would say, you know, come to my website, sign up for my newsletter. In about 30 days, I'm going to come out with this 90-day program. I'm going to take 20 people through it, and as a test run to just, you know, kind of work out the kinks. I already have like 5 people that are like, I'm in, I want
Yeah.
to do it. And I'm like, yeah, because they see the difference, right?
Yes.
You know, people that I'm close with. And, you know, and then all my blogs are there. You will know when my book is coming out, and you'll kind of be in the loop with me. And I'll have like 3 different things that people can sign up for. You can either do a month with me, or you could do private coaching with me, or, you know, you could do the 90 days. And so we're revamping all of that. It'll be a whole new website. And, you know, if anything, my blogs are free. So sign up for my free blog. And I have something else that I'm going to be giving away as a free gift that I'm working on right now. So, you know, it's all for me. I've had so many beautiful angels in my life, and beautiful things that have given me success, that, you know, I'm at that point in my life now where I just want to grow and give back, and be of contribution and be of service. So there will be some things for people that, you know, not everybody can afford to do seminars and all of that. So I want to have something available to people to at least, you know, have a resource, and that use me as a resource, because I'm going to
be willing to commit for the 90 days.
Yes. And also I have a page where I literally list all my resources. I give you my resources. You know, there's been books that have saved my life. There's been people, there's been music, you know, there's things that I do that I have resources. So I share that. You know, you have my blog. If you can't afford to do a seminar, then you have at least some things that you can go to and have as a resource.
Take a step. Most certainly take a step. Now, would you spell your name out for the people who are just listening, so they spell everything right for your site?
Absolutely. So it's Deborah, Deborah, Driggs, Driggs, and it's www.deborah.driggs.com. All my social media is Deborah Driggs, except for Instagram. It's Deb's Den Official, because Deb's Den is really what I created. I created the safe space, and it's a metaphor for having that space in your life where you can go when you need to reset, regroup, like we said, pop the hood and reboot, you know, turn it off and turn it back on type thing. And so Deb's Den is what that is all about. And so go to my website, go to Deb's Den. All my blogs are in Deb's Den. And then stay tuned, because my website is going to be updating in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And then you'll see the whole program will be there, and you'll have access to all of it.
Wonderful. And your book is coming out when?
Probably in 2023. This is a side note, but my grandfather wrote a book, and it's a historical fiction, and I had the manuscript, and I have been working on it for the last 2 years, and I'm actually publishing that book this year. And it's called Son of a Basque. It's a historical fiction about his Basque heritage and World War II and some really interesting stuff. It's fiction because of the fact checking that, you know.
Maybe it's faction.
Yeah.
Faction-based fiction.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's coming out this year, and that's kind of cool because that kind of gives a little history to my background. And then, the website, the newsletter, and then the 90-day program will be launching very soon.
I always say the best teachers are those that have gone through it.
Oh, disasters are masters.
Yes, exactly.
Disasters are masters. And
you can relate with them. They understand you.
Totally.
You understand them. And it's like, you know, nothing is too silly, you know, because I feel like this. Anybody else feel like this? Yep, been there, done that, right? And what did you do about it? Well, now let's have a look at this, you know? And those are the best teachers because they relate. They're not bookworms. They're not just a piece of paper. They are the process.
No, and you know, I can only speak about my experience, and if my experience helps somebody else, then I'm doing my job, you know. And it's really the stories that I've been told that other people have gone through that have helped me. You know, I have mentors and coaches that I go to, and their stories help me. You know, we relate that way. I think that's why I love autobiographies and I love documentaries, because I love to learn about people's journeys,
Yeah.
because like we said in the very beginning,
Mhm.
it all looks good when you're on the cover, but nobody knows really
What's
the
going on?
journey and what really
Yeah.
happened. And that's, I love learning about
I
that.
do too. I'm very, very
Yeah,
much the reason why I do what I do.
I know, it's beautiful.
And, we learn from those journeys so much, because I think one of the things we underestimate ourselves as human beings is just how resilient we are, how capable we are, how much courage and strength, how many abilities we really do have. And we've limited ourselves a lot by society's structure of who you should be,
Yes.
which box you should be in, how you should react. And if we throw away the box altogether and just allow ourselves to be pure energy and take that energy and dive in to release ourselves from any of those past pains, any of those past anguishes, and allow ourselves to be empty in order to be filled, then our cup will runneth over, and then we become that inspiration, but
Yeah.
that begets invitation to others. But we've got to be willing to take the process. We have to be willing to take the journey. And when somebody else has taken it ahead of you, and these are the skills and tools that they're sharing it with you, they are the most impactful. So don't
Yes.
forget to reach out to Deborah Driggs, DRIGGS.com, and look at everything she's doing and sign up now, and then you'll get news on when the workshop opens up. And please, folks, remember this most important thing. There's no running away from yourself. There's no avoiding yourself. There's no taking substances to hide from yourself.
No.
You want freedom from your pain, from your turmoil, from your anguish, then you've got to be willing to go through the process in order to release it, to become the beautiful essence you really are meant to be.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better.
Thank you so much for being here, Deborah. It's been
Thank
wonderful having
you.
you.
Thank you for allowing me this time, and God bless everyone.
And to everyone out there, remember, you are worth it. First and foremost, you are worth it. Please invest in yourself, because when you do, you then become the fruit that serves others. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Please tune in to our selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows, and you will see all the other genres that we have from you. Every week on Tuesday, we bring you new shows from illuminating people. If you know someone that should be interviewed, please contact us at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com. Now stay tuned for your next show.